very good morning to all the people who are here in the room. When I was on my way to this venue, I was thinking, okay, what should I be talking about? And suddenly my daughter, who's in college, called me, "Papa, jaldi se paise bhejo. मेरे को कैंटीन के बिल देना है." And I immediately stopped thinking about this event and this speech and sent the money to her. And that set me thinking, what did I do when I was in the same position, about 30 years ago in college? I would normally plan asking my parents for money if I was running out of it 10 days in advance. Because I would write a letter, it will reach home in 3 days, then they would probably, get a draft made, send it across, or send a check, or whatever it was. So it was a 10-day process, and you have to plan for that. Today's kids live in the instant generation. They will call up Swiggy, order a bread, and then 10 minutes later realize, oh, there's no butter, then they'll again place an order for butter. And then they'll ask, oh, I also want to have some ketchup. So the third order will go, and everything will get delivered instantaneously. So in this instant generation, I think people are not patient, and they are so sure that things will happen, which we never had the luxury for. If we would always doubt things, for instance, light hogi ki nahi hogi, phone charge hoga ki nahi hoga, there was always contingencies built up in the system. I remember in our home we would have the UPS and we also had a generator because things were not reliable. You never know when power will go off, for how many times. Will the UPS be enough to provide power during that period? Or maybe after 2 days I will need to switch on the generator. So you had a backup and then you had a backup on the backup. But I think what has happened in the last couple of decades is a lot of these uncertainties have vanished from the system, which has led to the growth of fintech and other allied digital ecosystem. And this, I think, is a great and amazing thing for the economy of the country. Because when money moves fast, the velocity of money has a direct impact on economic activity and economic growth. The good thing about what we are seeing today is that the adoption of technology, its access and its penetration is at an unprecedented level. I totally am in sync with Mr. Chidambaram, where I think somewhere in 2013-14, he kind of laughed at the idea of, a hawker accepting digital money. I totally relate with it because the generation that we come from with so many hiccups, it was a difficult thing to imagine. But it also kind of gives me a feeling of elation that in a short span of 10 years, we have actually achieved it at a scale where, kids today don't want to carry cash in their pocket. And they are pretty sure that they'll be able to do whatever they want with the digital currency or a digital wallet that they're carrying in their phones. But there's always a flip side of things. I think what people don't realize, with all these digital transactions, you're leaving a digital footprint. There's a lot of data that is floating around. There are concerns about the privacy of the data, about the use of the data, about the misuse of the data. There's always a positive side. So of course, the credit quality, the credit assessment, etc., all become much, much easier. Processing transactions become much easier. For me as an individual, when all my data is aggregated and pre-filled into my income tax form, that's a wow factor. Because suddenly the pain of filing income tax, and which was never about money, it was more about the time it took to calculate everything, ensuring that everything was captured correctly, calculated correctly, and reported correctly. And otherwise, you will probably get a notice, and then you'll end up wasting so much time in dealing with government on this issue. So I think all of those things are the positives. But what if the data goes into the wrong hands? What about hacking? What about security? I think those are the things that come to concern. Not with the younger generation though, but I think for people like us who are not used to sharing things that openly and are probably concerned about the misuse considerations more than the young people today. I think that's something that the industry will have to address and tackle because there'll always be rogue elements trying to misuse the system and this thing. I think the other thing is, I think from a government agenda, it's that if everything is digitized and trackable, then from a taxation point of view, the gap that we have amongst what is reported and what actually is filed as taxation would probably narrow over a period of time. Because as the digital tracks increase, I think it will be very difficult for people to conceal the incomes. GST has already addressed it at a very large level on one side of things. I think digital payments and transactions at a micro level somewhere will create and plug the loopholes that exist maybe down the line, and that will get addressed. Today we have a very interesting number of panels out here from industry thought leaders. I'll name a few of them who are here. So we already have Mr. Gopal Srinivasan, founder of TVS Capitals here. Then we'll have Ms. Vishakha Mule, CEO Aditya Birla Capital, Siddharth Parekh, co-founder Paragon Partners, Jayashree Vyas, MD of Seva Bank, Denny Thomas from NPCI or UPI for many of us, Hemant Gala from PhonePe, Bijit Bhaskar from ICICI Bank, Nitin Chuk from SBI, Yash Erande from BCG, and several others who will talk you and walk and discuss with you the challenges, the opportunities in this space. I think we are at a cusp of a big revolution. We've already seen a lot of growth in this sector. I think we are already placed at the number 3 pedestal globally in terms of the fintech space. And the way we are growing, I'm pretty sure we'll probably move to the number 2 slot in some time. I think one of the reports I was reading on the way said that, you know, the fintech funding in the year 2022 is down almost 50%. So I think one of the things the players in the industry will have to figure out is, in the absence of funding, how do you create a model that is viable and still high growth? Because high growth with funding is, we all know, very much possible. But high growth with the lack of funding is something I think probably it has to be figured out. Another survey said that funding is actually least of the worries of the sector today. So I'm assuming that people who are already in the play are well funded, but then it means people who want to get into the fray will have a bigger challenge. And that, I think, is not a good thing, because competition leads to innovation, and if new players can't come in easy, then I think innovation will get challenged and growth also will become a compromise. So with that, I will kind of end my note, and once again, welcome to all of you, and hope you have a very fruitful, engaging sessions today. Thank you.